Hi, Soul Tribe, and welcome to our show. I've missed you guys. I think it's been about 3 weeks. I think Phil's all set up with tech that's working.
Yeah.
My booking system's all balanced out. I've made my changes with the gorgeous girls over at Mason Jupiter, now going out on my own platform. So huge, huge changes under this Mercury and the Venus retrograde. How are you guys doing tonight?
Oh, I'm great, mate. Thank you so much for having me back on. It's great to be here with both of you, as always. And thank you to the lovely people in the chat who are watching this now and afterwards. Yeah, it's been pretty hectic on my end. Technology's just been giving me no. It's just been no. It's been making me work. But, because I am persistent, the payoffs is that I've had some heavier lifts some weights to lift, and I've had some hills to climb, but I got bigger muscles, and now I've been learning a whole bunch more, and I've been essentially pulled out of my comfort zone with some of the technology, and I've been forced in a beautiful way to have to widen my knowledge base, and it was challenging to start with, as a lot of things can be because of the steep learning curves, but I feel more powerful than ever. So yeah, I'm feeling quite empowered with knowledge in regards to some things at the moment. So that's going to translate into something that the people on my channel and my Substack and that will be able to take advantage of too. So yeah, thank you. Lovely to be here. How about you guys? What's been happening?
Yeah, look, I'm good. It's great to be here too, guys, with you. I haven't seen you guys for a while. It's been a few weeks, and I think you need some intro music with that, Phil. You need some kind of rocky kind of soundtrack. We need we need intros. We need intros. But I think the same. I'm interested in astrology. I don't kind of know anything about it innately, but I'm always fascinated because it's so spot on. And it makes sense, the bodies. And the up and down thing I find lately, also just energetically, it's funny because I had this another astral workshop Sunday and some more Reiki courses this week, and it was today's Friday, isn't it? Yeah, big week. And it's funny because we talk about that, like it's almost like you can get into the zone really easy, but then there's a lot of noise going on, but then it's kind of easy to get into the zone, but then there's a lot of noise going on, so it's kind of like interesting times.
Yeah, it does make sense to do with the astrology of now. And that was, I think, part of what prompted today. So with the show that we're doing on the magic of rising from the ashes, I've been talking about astrologically, I think it's through March and into April, there's very much like a feeling of, it's like we're burning things to the ground in order to have that sense of rebirth and renewal. We have the Libra full moon that's about to come up, and I'll stick up some little posters so I can share with you guys a little bit more, because then you can screenshot to keep as a reminder over the next coming days. So with this, we see here, hold on, this one. So this is around the Libra new moon. Let me just check if you guys can see that. Yep. So pink moon affirmations. I release what no longer serves me and welcome inner harmony. I am worthy of love, beauty, and peaceful connections. I let go of people pleasing and embrace authentic self-expression. I trust the universe to align me with my highest good. I am grounded, centered, and at peace with myself. I celebrate my growth and I welcome new beginnings. And what I noticed with this astrology over the last couple of months, it's almost been the shooting through of the eclipse energies that we've had. It's like there've been this kind of a pressure cooker. And what the pressure cooker's been mixing with all the ingredients of everything that we've done over our lives so far, I feel like there's new things that are birthing that are coming out of it, but it's like we're still trying to process or work through from the old version of self. So there's a dying off of the old version. So with that and the Libra moon influence, we see it's very much around people pleasing, around relationships, and around love and keeping a balance and dynamic. So it's looking at, I guess, who am I? How am I putting myself out there in the world? Am I coping or running any of these old programs? What is it that my intuition is bringing up, perhaps as something that seems awkward or hard, or something that it's like we're still playing the same character? And so we need to embrace this sort of brave, courageous rising from the ashes, knowing that something else is going to be birthed. And what it is that's being birthed is a transformation and change that's coming from the core of our soul and the core of our heart. So this is a little bit of my feel around the magic of rising from the ashes. It's funny, Spirit will often give me just the name, and then I have to go in and feel into, okay, what does this mean? So that's what I've noticed and linked with the astrology for the now. Does that make sense to you guys? What I'm sort of talking about, like what transformation we're going through?
Yeah, I can't help but sort of identify with the fact that there is, transformation taking place. I'm seeing it around me. I'm seeing it in the people. I'm seeing it in the physical environment as well. We're going through a seasonal shift. We've just had a bunch of, cycles. We've had everything from financial year here in New Zealand, which is April 1st, is kind of funny. Zodiacal New Year. We've got a full moon coming up. I mean, the moons are always going up and down, and that can add to an existing situation. But this transformational process, it's going to happen. Because the outer aspect of yourself may not want it because there's a comfort to staying where you are, but there's a part of you that wants something different, and it wants something meaningful, and it's prepared to make life challenging so that you can attend to that deeper yearning within yourself. And so, these sort of celestial bodies, or if we call it the heavenly bodies, the movements, we use the analogy of that playing out in our own, how that affects us. These things are always, some astrology is really strong for some people, but there's this collective transformational season, I think, that happens, especially this time of the year. And yeah, I guess it's like, wherever you are on the celestial map or on the cosmic map, change is the only constant. And so, when it's time, it's time. So just grab onto something and make sure you got plenty of snacks.
I love it. A foodie.
Yeah. Look, totally agree with you guys. I think it's funny. Remember a few weeks ago when I had that, I found that snake skin on my roof, that huge python.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was up there before that apparent cyclone and just clearing away the stuff, and it was just so long, this like 3-meter snake skin. I just thought it's so representative of what's going on. And I think you're right. I think it's old tech, new operating system. Then you think of technologically what's happened with your computer and stuff too. That's sort of representative. And I think, what, it's funny because where I sit, and it's funny because I had my chair I sit in when people come into my studio for Reiki, and they sit on the couch there, and there's another. Anyway, I always have my location whenever I'm teaching a course or something, a Reiki course anyway, where I'm sitting. I'm always, I have to sit in that chair. That's where I sit, because that's, plus it's got the best view. But watching what I do and with clients and stuff, it's just so interesting. The themes that come through are just so related. This notion of people identifying themselves almost through what they have done their whole lives, and then realizing that, hang on, being like doing springs from being, not the other way around. Like so many people, even the notion of the hat they put on, like their job, and they call themselves that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I am that. I am a lawyer. I am that, whatever. But in fact, so optimally, I've always felt that any action should spring from the feeling of how you are. I know it sounds a bit obtuse, but rather than, I've got to do that, it's more, it springs from you. Do you know what I mean? And I know that we don't all have the time to sit there and wait for that action to spring from us, but in principle, that we don't. Our identity is not what we do; it's who or what we are, and then everything comes from that. So yeah, we've kind of got it the other way around in society. I feel we have this notion, people wearing hats and this kind of thing, and this is crumbling. People are kind of realizing they're not their job. They do that job, but that's not who they are, or they are not that particular family member, or they are not that. So, and that has a lot to do with the people-pleasing thing too, I think. So it's kind of a cart before the horse kind of situation, I think, that we've been living in. I've always felt that. Even from the notion of schooling, education, this notion that being told that there are problems, like solve the problem. And I didn't know there was a problem to begin with. It's like we've been sold this notion that, it's like people think that politics is going to solve problems. It's not designed to solve problems. It's just designed to be what it is. So this is very much coming to the fore. It's like, the cards are throwing up in the air, and it's for the better, but uncomfortable, as you say, I think, for many people.
Yeah, a good time for black tourmaline. That's for sure.
Yeah, totally.
A bit of protection.
Grounding.
I think I just saw my son and my sister. He's come back from a sleepover. So you might see them pop their heads out the front, which is perfect because his name is Phoenix. So, rising from the ashes. Good timing with my sister.
You're just carting away your Buddha. Someone's carting away your Buddha as we speak. I love it. No, finding the keys. We know where the keys are.
Find a new hiding place now.
I'm sorry. Hey, Soul's keys are.
Oh my gosh.
It was under the Buddha the whole time, just like the Buddha was under the tree the whole time.
He's just
what does it mean? What does it mean?
She's just waving to me.
Priceless.
I'm glad you guys got to meet my sister. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I'm going to read to you guys a little bit more around, I found this and I thought it was perfect synchronicity for what we're traveling with. So this was a channeled message that just popped up on Facebook and it really resonated. So it is a divine feminine one, but for those that are in the balanced masculine, I think it resonates as well. So divine feminine, you are in a period of integration. Allow the energies to settle within you gently. There is nothing to force, nothing to fix. Trust that there is stillness, or the trust that this stillness is growth. As the full moon rises, a powerful wave will lift you into what's next. Your physical world will transcend, not through striving, but through your willingness to receive what is already yours. So trust in the timing, and the leap that you seek will come on the wings of grace. And I think that's it's so beautifully put and so constructive in that I really feel that a lot of our change traditionally comes from forcing in the 3D physical. And I don't know about you guys, but I know the last few weeks and with my change of coming back over to my own platform, with bookings and everything too, it doesn't feel that I'm changing to do with the external necessarily being, bad or anything. In a lot of ways, they're beautiful and harmonious and have brought magic into my life. But it's almost like a higher kind of birthing or calling that's coming in. I was saying with the girls at Maison Jupiter, it's like we're in the birth canal and we're in this hard sort of difficult stage of where we have to maybe twist or turn our shoulders to kind of dislodge and come out the other side of it for that clear birth. And I think that the more that we can sort of surrender, focus inwardly on our breath and connect back to that soul's journey and realize that, it's sometimes a matter of change and releasing things. So yeah, I think that one was perfectly put. The other one I want to share with you guys is this one. And this is the last little slide that I had on the topic, but show me the healers and new earth leaders that aren't afraid to be seen in the midst of transition. Show me the goddesses that will alchemize shadows into light before us. Show me the high priestesses that aren't above the wound, but are on either side of it. These are my people. I want to be around people who dare to be seen in transmutation without projection. I will not wait until I'm spotless to offer my light. Oh, goosebumps. We are more magnetic when we speak from our process. I deeply trust people who can walk through the fire and still remember who they are. And that really, really resonated with our gorgeous soul tribe here, because so many of you are so open and vulnerable and sharing, as are you guys. And I just thought that's such a beautiful summarized little blueprint on what it is that we're walking through.
Yeah, if I may, sometimes something's going to happen and it feels like it's a standalone event, but in a lot of cases, it's actually part of an unfolding process. And for some reason, that particular aspect of a process from a start to finish seems to be the loudest or the most uncomfortable or whatever it is. And so becoming aware of these, these aspects. Because if we look back on our life at significant, times on our own timeline, we can see that there was always something that kicked it off. For myself, I had a series of events happen, and this is the coolest part and the weirdest part, and also just curious. For me, it was December 2012. A series of events happened starting in December of that year that it just, like I said, a cascade of events occurred, and there was a lot of discomfort, but there was a call to change, and there was a call to adventure. And we're aware that there are, templates for a transitional process that we can look upon to give us a little bit of a map, if you will, so that can help us to navigate the landscape can be, even though the process may be somewhat familiar, it's the landscape sometimes that can be, we're heading into the unknown here, but that's how we sort of, outgrow our old skin, like the skin, like Greg was saying, the skin needs to be shed, just like the lobster, will shed its shell so it can, because it's growing out of it, and there's going to be a discomfort, and that discomfort is the the signal to go, oh, okay, change is coming. Maybe while I'm waiting for the new shell to grow, I won't go and be out in the sun too much, or expose myself to potentially abrasive environments and things, and so becoming aware, like looking back on your life, especially if you're sort of in your later years or in your middle age sort of onwards, you'll be able to call back and go, oh, that's right, something triggered that. There was a thing, then another thing, then another thing. But once I'd moved through this process, on the other side, I was bigger, stronger, faster, better, more experienced. And, I'm just finding that when I'm getting challenged, it's always different. I can't predict it. As much as I can do things for other people, and they go, wow, how could you know that? And that happened, all that. It's like, man, I can't, for myself. Oh man, I'm just bound. I'm bound to surprises. And it's good, but I feel the new benefits emerge when I get forced to have to learn something new, and it gives me like all the new tech stuff I'm learning, the software and the psychology and the sales and marketing type things that you kind of just have to go through. It repatterns and offers new angles and perspectives that become part of your sort of subconscious default. You're able to just naturally do things in a much more with intelligent execution that maybe you didn't have before. And so there's real value in that. But man, I was like, oh man, I got to learn all this stuff. And it's like, once I got over that and got in with it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to lean into this stress adaptation process and ride the crazy wave. And it sounds easy when I say it, and it may look easy on paper, but in reality, it's like, yeah, it's still going to hurt a little bit. But
can I ask you, sorry to interrupt, I'm so intrigued to ask a question.
Yep.
I know for me, when this sort of change that we were talking about, and thank you for showing up vulnerably and just being, honest with how it feels for you. I guess I would love to ask you on a deeper level. I know for me, sometimes when I'm going through transition and change, and sometimes I'll have like a burn to the mat kind of ground where I'll just change all the areas all at once. And it's like the rebirth kind of thing, which is, can be fun, but scary and enthralling at the same time. But I know for me, sometimes if I'm going through hard phases, it's almost like feeling, I a lot of the time recognize that I don't always live in my body. And so I know my nervous system can tend to feel a little bit hyperventilating or feel like I'm going to die when change is kicking in. What sort of emotions do you feel like physically within your body, or does that make sense what I'm sort of trying to describe that I'm feeling? And what do you do to kind of deal with those things or to help remedy? I turn to breath work. I turn to flower essences, meditation, breathing. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. And this is where the rubber meets the road. So we can talk about, there's this thing going on, and there's like, okay, well, I think part of it is like, for me, because I love this studying hermetics, which is a very scientific approach to metaphysics. It allows me to remain quite objective. Doesn't mean though that the tumultuous temperamental ocean of the emotional astral body doesn't just kick in and go, oh, okay, we're going to take you for a ride now. And I'm like, oh, I'm kind of pulled along, and it's like, okay, how do you deal with that? And it's like, well, I've just been given a situation that has challenged me, and I can, what options have I got? Now, for myself, overwhelm is a thing. I'm generally a pretty chilled, solid, I would think for the most part, person. Doesn't mean that there's things that pop up that, you go, oh my gosh, this is out of my control. I don't know what to do. And it's like, sometimes you just got to submit and surrender to the process a bit. And, like you said, people pleasing, that's a tough one. Like if you want to enact change in your life and you want to go scorched earth, I mean, I've done that. And fortunately, I had built up good relationships, so it survived some of those challenging things because not everyone was understanding of it. But when it comes to my own internal situation, going, all right, we're going on a wild ride, and I'm like, oh, yay, again, all right, let's do it, man. I bought the ticket, let's take the ride. I have to say that. Breath, like following the breath out through the tips of the nose, like feeling the cool air on the apertures of the nostril when the air's coming in, and then feeling the warmth on the way out and just focusing on that. Just some kind of concentration that's louder than the other noises, the other inputs. And that will help to basically bring your focus onto this idea of peacefulness and stillness. Because if you're having an emotional reaction to something, everything's brought to life, and your mind's like, oh man, what do I do with this? And it's like, well, you bring your mind in, and it's able to start managing what it takes on board. But definitely, going into a natural environment and just breathing in the tranquility, the serenity. Think of words that bring you back to a nice centered place, because the emotional body is it will settle down. It's often referred to like as the what is it, the suit of cups in the tarot. And some of the like that old king of cups, you can see him in the background, it's all tumultuous, but he's just sitting there chill, and he's got it, he's solid, right? So you want to have, in my view, you want to have a bag of tricks or a bag, in your medicine bag, essentially, for yourself. So when things go awry, if you get overwhelmed or things are just on the rise, you go, okay, what's my go-tos? And you have them handy, because when you're in an emotional maelstrom, sometimes your ability to remain objective can be skewed. So you just go, here's my little book or my piece of paper I keep in my wallet or my purse. Do this, do this, do this, do this. And you just outsource to a process that you've pre-planned.
I tend to do the same thing. So like the meditation alarm will go off, or the affirmations that are in and around the house. That's really valuable advice. Thank you for that. And how about you, Greg?
Yeah, look, it's interesting. It all ties in, doesn't it? Because I was thinking before, like looking at the perspective of people once again coming for Reiki and just seeing the patterns, and I find that literally when they're not well or when they're kind of shaky, and that would go for me as well, like literally my bodies are not aligned as they should be. So on a practical level, when I'm putting my hands under their head and close my eyes, I can feel a shake going on. Or often it's when I'm putting my hands around their ears, kind of thing, which I do in the beginning. So I cup my hands around their ears, and I can kind of feel there's like a shudder. And often that's, to me, if like a car with loose parts on a bumpy road, it's like they're literally beside themselves. So that the person who is in some kind of shock, whatever, or even on a very low level, the body, there's this shudder going on in the system. And we have these sayings like, how are you feeling? Oh, I'm beside myself with whatever, like, what I mean? We have all these sayings. Get a hold of yourself, get yourself, pull yourself together. And then what I find naturally is the bodies come into alignment, so that there's not so many. So I think when we're in kind of that low level shock, which we all go through sometimes, there's like these little fissures developing where the energy gets out of our subtle bodies, and we lose energy, we lose kind of who are we, that kind of stuff. And it's so interesting because in all of that, I'm thinking, because as we know in healing, in this kind of healing, it's up to the client who's doing it. They're doing it. We're just activating. So it's like that. And I'm thinking before you mentioned landscapes, Phil, I'm thinking like a body is like a landscape. When someone comes for body work, literally their vulnerabilities are their strengths. Their vulnerabilities are the portals where the Reiki flows in. So you're looking for areas where where you can feel there's something going on. And often you can see on the body, you can feel, let's say if we're talking about the top of the spine, there's sort of undulations that are a little bit out of whack. But funnily enough, those vulnerabilities are exactly the portals to where the energy runs in. So I think what that represents is like our weaknesses, or our perceived weaknesses, are actually the doorways to who we truly are and our strength. And that's and that makes sense. I think now that a lot of people, as you say, this sharing one's vulnerabilities is a good thing. I mean, it's so human on the best sense, and I think this discomfort, it is interesting. I feel it too. I sometimes want to wriggle, but I guess my thing is, I feel often I know it's not me. Like I know it's very easy to say I know I'm in a perfect space, but I go and sit under the pyramid for a little bit because I'm getting into those Giza golden mean frequencies, which I find do calm me very quickly. I've even got a pyramid crystal pyramid that is also, again, I'll hit it and spin it above my head, and I find that really just gets me feeling connected to. So my feeling is that our bodies are out of whack when we're feeling like that, and when we can get them in. And you can see, like when people are in or out, you can just see it. I mean, looking at clients and getting used to that, being from in that chair that I'm in, and you guys feel that too with clients. But it's like there's almost something behind their eyes that is not them, and it's like, okay, and whatever you want to call it, are they out of whack? Do they have entities? Do they have energies? Whatever, you can call it whatever vocabulary you want, but it's just that person not. The body's not fully aligned, and then when you are feeling fully aligned, it's back on. So I use frequency and also chakra breathing, just breathing through my chakras. So I'll go in the forest and just breathe through my chakras, just breathing awareness through my energy centers. And I find that just gets me just kind of feeling good. So I think the breath is a thing, isn't it? Because it just brings you back in the body. It's all related. Just so interesting.
It is. And I love your example of, talking about the different body parts and being able to touch and see into things. And the one you were talking about up here just reminded me of when my kids were little and, constantly breastfeeding and having two of them sort of closer together. When I connected in that from a kinesiology level, because I noticed a little bit of the bone structure changing, and I'm like, oh, it feels like there's a little bit of a hump or a bump from constantly holding these babies. And, it was about like pouring all my nurturing and energy into other people outside of myself. And as soon as I identified the emotion and corrected it, it went click, 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 and realigned instantly. And I avoided having any kind of hunchback situation. But you can see that physiologically in, people that are hunched over. You see a lot of the time, walking sticks and people hunch fully over or their back. And sometimes when you open up that emotion or tap into that hidden or trapped feeling that's in the heart, you can restructure and change someone within 24 hours. It's absolutely incredible. So I do encourage our Soul Tribe, if you guys are going through things, these boys are very skilled and have a lot of expertise in energy healing, Reiki, as well as being able to counsel you through a lot of the things that you're going through. So I do encourage you guys to reach out, and we'll show the websites and things at the end, but all of the descriptions and links to everyone tonight are in the box, in the description box below. Greg, I did also want to ask you about, you mentioned in regards to, our weakness is also that thing that we need to maybe perhaps embrace. And I just want to pop this up as reference. So I know I'm going through a huge shift and change, and this was captured yesterday. So I had a client session, and I usually have my screen on little and have my client on the bigger one. So I'm drawing their aura and intensely reading. And she's like, oh my God, your aura. She's like, there's, all this rainbow and plasma energy. And yes, we do have the sun that comes through this window around this time of year, but you can see that there's one wing that started to form, a plasma wing. And I do feel that I'm going through this energy transformation or transference. So hopefully the other wing will pop out on the other side.
Mhm.
I was aware of wings when I was about 21 was the first time I felt them sort of pop out. But I do feel that there is, where you were saying about embracing what it is that is our downside or, downfall. I do see with me, with all this Libra full moon energy that we're walking into, there is a lot of that giving, that nurturing. And I feel like it definitely can be the downside or the downfall of things. But I feel if you were to give me an example of how we can best embrace or use that to a positive, how would that help me form my other wing? So
It's,
a little
yeah,
bit of a,
it's a
yeah.
really good question, isn't it?
Mm.
And on a personal thing, I'll share a personal thing with you, because I was, as a kid growing up, pretty quiet kind of kid, thoughtful kind of stuff, and that can often be misinterpreted when you're a kid, as you know. And I never forget, I had an uncle, and I love my uncle, one of my uncles, and he was real entrepreneur, and he was a boxer actually. Anyway, when we were adults, it was an interesting comment, and of course he was getting a bit of dementia, but he said, Greg, you're always weak, And it was interesting because he didn't mean physically, because physically I always did stuff, but it was just this thing of standing back. And I always used to think that was my weakness, that thing of standing back from having to correct the world around me. And it's funny, of course, I fell into what I fell into. And I've got that from a bit of my family, that notion that that's a very personal thing, but it's a feeling of like growing up thinking, is that weakness because I don't react that way, or I don't try to fix it, or I'm not externalizing things. I'm a more internal person. And then I realized, no, that's an epic strength. That's a freaking epic strength, and it's something to really to let shine forth. And a lot of people have their own labels that maybe people close to them growing up have put onto them, and they've probably affixed that to their back, and they think they're like a turtle going through life with that label screaming out from their back. So it's interesting. I just think in a non-dual world, which is where we're from and which is actually who we truly are, there is no dualism. And as I've said, many times, I've just this overwhelming love that one feels in the astral is, of course, mind-bending, and you can't let it go. So I really do have the feeling that, and also observing my own body and others in the astral is a shock, because there is this, we carry this kind of, like garland, a mistaken garland around our neck of illusion, of illusory failure. A lot of people have it. And really that, if one really digs into that apparent failure, that you will find your gold in there. That's where it is. Where we think we're letting the team down, whoever the team is, that's where it is. That's where the other wing is.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. I'm going to have to reflect and look on that a little bit more introspectively. But I do love the example that you gave. And I do, what I really love about our soul tribe is that we can be transparent, we can be vulnerable. And I do know, even within my own astrology chart, it's using things that I'm working through or going through as well. A lot of the time that it's like when we figure it out, you can bring it to the wider community, and it's like, this is like one way to do it. But I love that example of you actually finding strength in what your uncle was sort of saying was a weakness, because I think it definitely takes a lot more strength to be open, transparent, and vulnerable than it does to be just sort of that hard ass, closed off heart, or hardened over heart.
And on that theme, before I forget, I loved Shakespeare when I was a kid, and the soliloquy, the Hamlet soliloquy, to be or not to be, whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles. So it's this notion of, I love that, like that Hamlet, it was about, do I take action against, do I fight? And energetically, by fighting, you actually increase the energy of the fight, whatever that fight is.
Yeah.
Or do you kind of allow it, and transform it, find some way of transmutation. And so it's like I get a lot of clients who say, oh, because we talk about protection, energetic protection, and they say, I'll put the mirror ball around me. And I say, that's fair enough, but do you really want to reflect back those barbs coming from someone who you don't get on with at work? Do you really want to reflect that back to them? Or wouldn't it be better if it didn't gain traction in your field and just move through you?
And
so
I think that relates to this question too, if I can get you guys to touch on this. Sorry to interrupt. So I think that's perfect what you said about the mirror ball too, because, where we place our thoughts, where we place our attention and energy, that's going to grow that. So if we are looking at sort of highlighting or spotlighting the boogeyman, we don't want to do it over and over and over. The same as if there's situations or people, places, or I'll use relationships because that's a really easy one to see and identify, whether it's, family or romantic or friendships. Sometimes if we're seeing someone externally, treat or act in a certain way, we can sometimes have that victimization, or we can look at it in like whenever that person shows up, that trouble shows up. But it's almost like that's giving that more attention. So I think we do have to kind of burn that to the ground in a way, step more into this power and this energy we're talking about with growing the other wing. But I guess, can you maybe guys talk about this in relation to attachments? Because sometimes where we have our weakness, this is where the little boogeyman likes to come in and poke fingers in the wounds and try and exacerbate the core wounds, or exacerbate, feelings of whether it's uncertainty within self, or feelings of, not feeling worthy. Can you guys talk a little bit on that?
Yeah, sure. Whatever triggers the initiation of a process, sometimes the thing that's doing it knows. Sometimes it has an intelligence to it that it's been given a job to do. It's also said in some circles that mistakes and flaws are lights on the path that you can rely on. They help to, not this way, because sometimes you don't know which way to go. And so, but you can generally figure out which way not to go. And so that becomes your thrust block. And so when it comes to, attachments, right? In some, they talk about this idea of being cosmic accountants. And, if we move into a non-dual sort of mind think, everything has a purpose. Everything essentially is part of a greater conversation, part of the wheel works of reality and how things are playing out. But and I'm sure Greg, you probably would have come across this too in your healing practices, is that those things are sometimes they stick around longer than what they need to, and this is part of the thing. It's just like going, okay, thanks for the lesson, pretty sure I got it. Can you go away now? And no, I'm pretty comfy. Okay, well, thanks, but no thanks. Get out of the damn house, And so you think about, okay, well, I mean, if the job hasn't been completed, something else is going to come along, something similar that's going to trigger things. It may be dressed up a little different, but there will be hallmarks of familiarity as to the nature of what the process is that you're, supposed to be going through for your growth. And so, as far as dealing with things goes, we have sort of talked about this in other things, and but I will say that number one is go and have a shower, and turn it down a little cooler. Okay, towards the end, have a good scrub at the physical level, scrub yourself, and then when you're getting more into the subtle levels, the cold water, the water element has a special quality of pulling, because it contracts, it's magnetic, and so one of the hermetic practices is that when we wash our hands, the water's falling onto our hands, and it's actually pulling on the filth, if you will. In this language, there's some pretty strong old words because it's old language, but essentially it's pulling all the what you don't want off you, and you just feel it being stripped off. So water is a brilliant one. Go and have a soak in the ocean. Some people say 20 minutes in the sea, good to go. And the other one is, you know, if you feel like you're like, oh my gosh, this is just getting silly now, and you know, that sage cannon, you know, that's like that. If give them a chance and say, hey, look, guys, look what I got. I ain't mucking around, because that thing is like that's like the kill shot, that stuff. And if they're just mischievous, you know, they might be like, oh, hang on, no, I don't want this, because that sort of stuff can cause them a lot of problems. So yeah, I mean, these are a couple of things. And the other one is, of course, like Greg was saying, the mirror ball. But what if those barbs are meant to get to you so that it kicks a thing off? Well, you know, like I said, you know, it's going to try this way. If that doesn't work, it'll come back around, because it's part of your life path. So yeah, sorry, hopefully that was of some value.
Yeah.
No, that was really great, especially in relation to the question. Thank you. How about you, Greg?
Yeah, it's a cool theme. So the attachment, I mean, in many ways, like, what isn't an attachment? I tend to think of this huge karmic block we are walking around the place, not in a negative sense, it's just the way it is. And I think that, okay, if we can relate to people or associate with situations that are not personal in a very open-hearted way, like then we're kind of not building more of that attachment. So what I mean by, I guess I'm saying reacting more consciously. So if we're in a really comfortable position all the time, okay, if we're in a comfortable environment all the time, we're going to be on autopilot, which ain't so good for shedding karma. Okay. And so if you look at karma as basically all of the attachments in the soup, do you know what I mean? And because in the end, we're looking to burn off all that is not us, so that by the time, so that we become more ourselves, correct? So we're becoming more of our true spirit. So I think, so it's a pretty hefty word, you know, attachment. I think in the end, I think to feel your way forward or into a decision rather than think your way into a decision. So if we think that we're wanting to operate, operating system is kind of more with the heart now. So I think if things, you start to distinguish between what is a good idea and what feels right, and what is a bad idea and what feels wrong, and they can sometimes be different things. So I think if this a full-bodied mind traction with what's going on is going to steer you generally in the right direction, so that because attachments are there to kind of put you off, you know, off balance a little bit. It just happens that way, that they tend to. I think to look into how you're feeling rather than thinking is good, and also use that as a yardstick. And then also, as you're saying, feel like jump. Like yesterday, I went to the sea. I make it a thing every week to go, no matter. And it was pretty rough. I just always get in the water, and the bath thing is good. The cold shower is really good, and finding ways, you know, incantations to remove what is not you. This kind of stuff. And I think as light workers or, you know, energy workers, the stuff we do as you know, working sensitives, as in we're working with this stuff all day, that we found these techniques that help, and they really are, you know, that's what gets you through. You have to do that, you know. And I know a few young students I taught a while back with starting to get into Reiki. I'm not going to do Reiki, no way. I'd be getting into people's field, you know, and they're good at Reiki. They're really good at it, but they just didn't take it seriously enough what they were stepping into. Because you are shunting things around the place, and those particular energies that are there for the purposes of karma to keep going, that they prefer certain attachments to be stuck on people, because so they can live, you know, and that's normal that they want to experience. So I just think finding ways of not so much boxing it and smashing it up and fighting it, but finding ways of you know, living together, and as Phil was saying, you know, leave the room, and like being quite resolute in one's ways of ridding oneself of these energies. And I think that anyone who's doing this stuff and is sensitive to it will realize that, I mean, these techniques actually work. These techniques will make you feel better. You jump in the sea, you know, you're gonna feel better. If you're feeling distracted, whatever. So, you know, getting back to the earlier question, how do you deal with these things? Just by actually dealing with them.
That's a pretty clear, straightforward answer. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think this is why Spirit's really been encouraging me to put out the zodiac videos for each of the signs. It's to give us a little bit of the heads up around the astrology so we can perhaps go, right, this is maybe the map or, the navigation. So I need to like bunker down and like work on this or this month. There's always sort of a theme. And I think if we can get to the underlying emotion behind the themes, we can tend to sort of surf through things a lot easier. And it's so easy to externalize things. And I think with this Phoenix rebirth energy that we're talking about, it's not going to come from outside of us. This is all sort of like igniting into ashes and into flames. And I think it was really interesting that Spirit tonight was so clear on not giving me notes in terms of, I'm like, okay, ready to sit down and like write my notes. So like, no notes for tonight, no writing. We're literally freestyling it, and we're going to see what comes up. We're going to be in the present, in the space of the now. So that for me has been a big, I guess, overtonal energy for this period of transition, is to be really present, to start to come back into the body, into the breath. And for the full moon, I'm actually going to a breathwork class very early tomorrow morning, and it's one with headphones. It's 9D breathwork. So I think I've never been to the 9D one, but it's like binaural beats and put you into like an altered state of consciousness to really like let go of things and to come back, I guess, to yourself. So I will definitely be reporting with you guys how that goes. And let you know. But yeah, I've heard amazing stories and shifts from it already. It just seems really, really incredible. And I think Tammy's word here, allow yourself to surrender and rise from the ashes. And I think that's the thing. Drop everyone else's expectations, get out of your own head even, and let it be led from soul, from spirit, as to like where the next steps are. And I think it's not about having all of the answers for the now. It's okay to sort of go through a radio silence kind of period. I know, Phil, you were saying about doing some tarot around this. I've got my cards as well. So maybe I'll have a quick pick into why Spirit chose this topic tonight. And did you want to maybe summarize with your cards as well?
Yeah, so thank you. I've actually got specifically picked some cards in regards to aspects of the transformational process. And so if anyone in the audience wants some contemplations, you can rewatch this video or just take some notes as I pull them up. Would you like to go first, Sol, or would you like me to go first?
Yeah, I'll just go first really quickly, if that's okay. So I've got 4 of Swords and the Justice card. So a lot of this healing we're actually working through blindly. So this is Libra energy. So it's really centered around this full moon that we're having, which is the pink moon, as we talked about too. So definitely a lot of like inward stuff, working with the emotional body, working with relationships, connections. Page of Cups. This is just and you can probably hear a dog barking in the background. Sorry about that, guys. But Page of Cups energy, this is to treat yourself with love and kindness. This is definitely to reach out with your community. 10 of Cups. This is also the card of wishes fulfilled. It's also about balance and satiety. So you really need to actually start to tap in towards that higher vision and higher expression. So you may have been getting Page of Cups energy, but you need to tap into 10 of Cups. So you need to actually give the universe a blueprint and a program for what it is that you want, not be focused on what it is that's, creating imbalance. The other thing we have is the Emperor energy. So the big reason of why Spirit sort of gave us this topic tonight is have a look at like where you're placing uncertainty, where you're sort of like, I guess, accepting minimal, and where it is that you need to start putting your blueprint out a little bit bigger, prouder, stronger. And the Emperor energy is a little bit unapologetic, and he is Aries too. And it's interesting, in my favorite deck, it's double Phoenix on his shield. So there we go again with that Phoenix rising from the ashes. So we're definitely healing around this, healing around any inadequacies, healing around any kind of like lack or any self-worth issues, is why we're particularly working with this topic around this full moon. But yeah, take the lead, Phil. Can't wait to see what cards.
Thank you. Great. Yeah, wonderful. So, guys, I just wanted to do a quick nutshell. And so you can use these images if you don't have to buy a deck. But if you're curious about how this may be sort of overlaid on the cards, not so much as divination, but as archetypes for helping information arise through contemplation. So what we have is that we have an event that happens that's, and so the Tower card here, basically, there's an abruptness, right? There's a moment of collapse or some kind of triggering initiation thing that captures us off guard. And so that sort of initiates and triggers a process that starts, a cascade, a series of events. Then what we have is that, as things are falling to bits a little bit, we have this, symbolized by the death card, we have this kind of letting go of like shedding the skin, if you will. We're having to literally tear strips off or let the strips fall off because we don't maybe know what else to do, but it feels uncomfortably like maybe the right thing to do. Then what we have is a, and so that sort of represents transformation, and then, while we're going through this process, we're doing a lot of thinking and we're considering. And so, we have the moon card here, and this can be representative of sort of the unsure about what to do. We're going through a process. It's almost like the dark night of the soul. And so we're wandering in unknown territory. Something's going on and we're having to just flounder and find our way through it. And sometimes the best thing to do is just switch off, isolate, go into quietude, so that, the internal situation can right itself, so the boat can steady itself. Okay. And then what happens is that once we find that, once we start like righting the boat, if you will, or steadying the ship, these little moments will start popping up, and we'll hear this call or this opportunity is symbolized by Gabriel blowing the horn here on the Judgment card. And there's a part of us that goes, you might feel like you're in the dark alone and things are pretty desperate or whatever. But then in that dark, a little light will appear, and it'll be like this. It'll be all that pressure. And then all of a sudden a little diamond will pop up. And if you're quick enough, it'll be easy. It should be pretty obvious because you've been like so confused that something will pop out and the contrast will be so blaringly obvious. Now, the thing is, though, is that call can require some courage. But nevertheless, the Phoenix is gone. Man, I've had enough. And so and it's funny because this one here is some of these cards, like the Tower is a fire sign. The Death and the Moon are generally considered water signs, being Scorpio and that. This one here is attributed to Shin, which is the mother letter of the fire element. And so then we have, the Phoenix has heard the call. I'm just going to put on my big boy pants, my big girl pants. I'm going to put a rocket up my butt. I'm going to go do it. I've heard the call. And then we have the clarity and the new life that comes about from the exhilaration of entering onto a new path that, we don't, like Solreta said, we don't need to know the full everything. All we need is one little cobblestone in front of us, one little thing. Okay. And that's what this can be sometimes. It's like, I can't give you the full journey, but what I can give you is a couple of steps in a certain direction. And it may not be completely clear, but I tell you what, when you're locked in the dark and you're feeling like, I don't know what to do, I tell you what, that sun is going to show up, and it's going to make some things very clear and obvious. And then we have the new adventure, the meaningful adventure, and let us begin. So thank you for that time to sort of share that. So,
that's powerful. And it so deeply resonates. And I can see, some of our audience as well agreeing with that. So thank you for that. That was awesome. Greg, did you have anything that you want to add to that, or any downloads that you're feeling?
No, just this, I think this theme that I feel the way forward for everyone is a letting go, not an adding on. It's just, because we've been taught in this dimension that, to clap everything around and to get cleverer and cleverer and to add more programs into the matrix. But I think the letting go, is where it's going to happen. And you think of like, the butterfly out of the cocoon, that kind of stuff. So I think, funny enough, at the very beginning, related, the very beginning of the lockdowns and COVID, we had a butterfly plague here. It was so beautiful. I remember going surfing when I wasn't supposed to the first time, and we were just entranced. All the surfers, there was all these butterflies. They're all flying out from the land to the sea. It was literally like millions of butterflies, and even here in Brisbane, on the deck was just butterflies everywhere. And I just remember thinking, "Wow, that's transformation, huh?" It was
Amazing.
just
Oh, I wish
so
I saw that.
Yeah, it was just so full on, but it's just this feeling of a letting go. I thought it was bizarre that they were flying out to sea, like they were flying out to the unknown. They weren't coming the other way.
Wow.
I thought that was fascinating. From the fixed of the physical, they're flying out to this kind of, mystical, etheric kind of unknown.
And
Yeah, it was
what
beautiful. It
color
really
were
was a
they?
letting go. Yeah.
Oh, what color were they?
They were. I remember they were kind of like pinky and purpley and that kind of stuff. So it really was. It was just so profound, and a lot of, not a lot of the surfers are kind of real blokey blokes, and everyone was moved to tears. And it was quite a scene.
Amazing.
And everyone remembers that.
Oh, that's so cool.
It was so
I'm just
nice.
going to pop up because we have come to the end of our hour pretty much. This is the new page that I have. So if you go on over to solreta.com and you will find, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see the new sessions that I have. So some of your favorites are still here. So don't be afraid if you're a past client of mine and you're looking for the same type of reading again, it's definitely still there, as well as face reading too. So we have the half hour, which will be a pre-recorded. You guys just have to upload some photos for me. All the description is there. And I also want to remind you guys, we have the Soul Alchemy Potions New Moon event that will be coming up. We've got the old one up here, but we will have New Moon in Taurus towards the end of the month. And don't worry, by the time we get to the New Moon in Taurus, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today will feel like it's already in the past. So just to reassure you that the transformation is not going to feel like this forever, this kind of burning to the ashes. We are going to be getting our new feathers around this time with it coming into Taurus. And I just want to remind you to jump on over to the boys' YouTube channels as well. And you'll see Greg has his site here, and you'll see the booking sessions as well, which are along the top, services, and you can see Reiki and other things that he has on offer, as well as his courses. And with Phil, you'll see he's updated, and you've just had recently Mark Rasmus, who you introduced me to his work years ago. So I still have to catch up with the show that you did with him. I can't wait to actually watch it. It's like on the top of my to-do list. So jump on over there too. And you'll also see that Phil has bookings available too. So just want to, again, thank everyone for joining us. Love you guys, Soul Tribe. Oh, I can see beautiful Soul Sister here too. It's so nice to have you all with us. And also thank you for everyone journeying, like with this huge period of growth. We've got this, is how it feels when we're all together. We're actually going to be okay. We're going to, swim to shore together. Anything you guys want to mention just before we sign off?
Yeah, I just want to echo what Greg said before. Letting go, like learning to release things, so they actually feel like you're letting it go. Whether and it may be something that's really special and value and important to you, but as we develop a relationship with something, there's what we might refer to as an astral matrix, or a bridge that forms, like a linkage, and we can get caught up in that soup. Sometimes we need to zoom out so that we can become objective again. And one of the best ways to do that is to just let stuff go. Like, just write a list of things you like and you don't like, and just, there's lots of different release techniques, but when you let go, you'll just feel lighter and easier. And like, what do they say? If you love something, let it go. And when it comes back, it's like, oh yeah, that's right. So outside of that, that's going to help the burning process, if you will, of, when the ashes, before you rise, is going to have to be the burning away. I mean, like the butterfly metaphor is beautiful, because the chrysalis is what the butterfly, the caterpillar, it was made from the caterpillar. It's what the caterpillar left behind so that it could fly. It's another wonderful sort of one. So thank you for that. It's always lovely. Thank you, chat. Thank you for joining us here. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you guys. Oh, and I can see Lakeside Laura. and burn it. And I saw she said before she had like triple fire, I think it was, in her chart. So I just want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, Soul Tribe, as well. This is always such a beautiful, cathartic learning experience for all of us. And we are transforming together and rising from the ashes. So I love you all. And thank you so much. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Yeah.